Let's take a look at this exercise that focuses on causal diagrams, independent and dependent variables, and levels of measurement. For each of the following examples, draw a causal diagram. It should be clear which variable is the independent variable or variables, and which variable is the dependent variable. And indicate the level of measurement for each variable. You may need to write a survey question in order to justify the level of measurement. Okay, so we're going to have to do a couple of things here. We need to put together a few different concepts that we've talked about in this class. The first one is independent and dependent variables. We have to make sure we can identify which variable is the dependent variable and which variables are the independent variables. We're also going to be drawing causal diagrams, and they're going to be somewhat complex. There's going to be multiple independent variables. And the last thing we're going to do is indicate the level of measurement for each of the variables. Okay, let's take a look at number 1. Many factors contribute to students' grades. Women often obtain higher grades than men. Compared to other races, Asian students often achieve the highest grades. Students who participate in extracurricular activities achieve higher grades than those who do not. Finally, students who commute often have lower grades compared to students who live on campus. Okay, so our dependent variable, we're looking here, are grades. So let's go ahead and put grades over here. We'll make that in a box. And that's our dependent variable. So there's a few independent variables that were mentioned. It looks like gender matters. So I'm going to make our independent variables a different color. So we have women, and it looks like we're going to look at race and extracurricular activity participation and whether or not you commute. Okay, so those are going to be our independent variables. So women, put Asian, so compared to students who are non-Asian. Whether or not you participate in extracurricular activities, okay, and whether or not you commute. Okay, so these are our independent variables. We want to make sure we draw an arrow from our independent variables towards the dependent variable. The arrowhead should go on the side that points towards the dependent variable, okay? And now we need to add positive or negative signs above the arrow to indicate the relationship. So women often obtain higher grades than men, so we expect this relationship to be positive. Asian students often achieve higher grades than other races, so we're going to make that positive as well. Students who participate in extracurricular activities achieve higher grades, also positive. And then finally, we find that students who commute have lower grades. So that's actually going to be a negative sign right there. Okay. So some of these are really straightforward in terms of level of measurement. The first one is nominal for women. Oops. I think I accidentally turned the eraser on. There we go. That one's nominal. And race is actually nominal as well. So both of those are nominal. And here we're talking about people who participate in extracurricular activities versus people who do not. And so that is also going to be a nominal variable. And people who commute versus people who do not. It's probably going to be nominal. So all of our independent variables are nominal. Grades is a little bit trickier. Most of the time when we talk about grades, we're talking about A, B, C, D, A pluses, B pluses, C minuses. There might be some variation there. But if we're talking about letter grades, that's going to be an ordinal measure. Okay? But let's say you actually had the numbers. You know exactly what percentage people have. They got a 92 in the class, or they got a 67 in the class. If you had the numbers, then you would actually be looking at an interval ratio, level of measurement. So this one really depends. And that's why I encourage you to write a survey question. And as long as you can justify the level of measurement with a survey question, then that is fine. Okay, let's look at number 2. Researchers are interested in learning more about why people join cults. Compared to older people, younger people tend to join cults in greater numbers. Men are more likely than women to join a cult. People who are jobless and those who lack a large family network are also more likely to join a cult. Okay, so let's put this in a different color. All right, so the first thing we want to do is identify our dependent variable. What are we trying to predict? We're trying to predict joining a cult. Okay, so that is our dependent variable. We'll go ahead and make that our dependent variable. Our independent variables are things like age. We have older people and younger people. We have gender again. Okay. So we have men are more likely than women, people who are jobless, and people who lack a large family network. These are our independent variables of interest. Okay, so the first thing we'll add is age. And the next thing we'll do is gender. Now you can put men or women in your causal diagram, but only put one or the other. The assumption, of course, is that you're comparing men to women if men are in the diagram, and you're comparing women to men if women are in the diagram. So you can put either one, just make sure you only put one. Okay. People who are jobless, so let's put have a job down here. And the last one is family network. So we'll put family network. Okay, that's our last variable. And we're going to make sure we connect all of these to our dependent variable. Okay, so compared to older people, younger people tend to join cults in greater numbers. So our first variable is age. So as people age, they become less likely to join a cult. That's what that means, because younger people are going to be more likely to join a cult. Okay, so as people age, they become less likely. That means we need a negative sign right there. With this independent variable, it's probably an interval ratio. It could be that you measured it using an ordinal survey question. What is your age? 20 to 25, 26 to 30, and so on. But let's assume we just asked people, what is your age? And they answered their exact age. That would make an interval ratio. Anytime you have a variable like that, you would say, as this variable increases, and then you say what happens to the dependent variable, and your sign, whether it's positive or negative, tells you what's happening there. Okay, men are more likely than women to join a cult, and we know from up above, this one's nominal. Okay, people who are jobless are also more likely to join a cult. So I put have a job here, and so I'm talking about the the inverse. So if you have a job, you are less likely to join a cult. If you had put don't have a job, then you would need a positive sign here. Okay, this one's nominal. We can't rank it. It's just, do you have a job? Yes or no. And then people who lack a large family network are also more likely to join a cult. So as your family network increases, you are less likely to join a cult. So family network, it depends how you measure that. That could be interval ratio. If you were to ask people how many people are in your family that you can count on or rely on. Or you might see something that's more ordinal, where you give people ranges. Okay. And our dependent variable, do you join a cult? Yes or no? That's a nominal level of measurement. Okay, let's look at the next two examples. Depression affects many Americans. Researchers find that women are more likely than men to report feeling depressed. People who attend church are less likely to report feelings of depression. Marriage decreases feelings of depression, but alcoholism increases feelings of depression. Okay, let's get a different color here. Okay, so we're trying to predict depression. All right, depression is our dependent variable. So let's go ahead and put that in a box over here, like that. And we have a few different independent variables of interest. Women, so we're back to gender, are more likely than men to report feeling depressed. People who attend church are less likely to report feelings of depression. Marriage is good. Marriage decreases feelings of depression. But alcoholism increases feelings of depression. Okay, so let's put those in our causal diagram. So we have women compared to men, women, okay? So we make sure we point the arrow towards depression. It's not a very pretty arrow. And women are more likely than men, okay? Okay. Church attendance. Draw our arrow like that. Okay. People who attend church are less likely to report feelings of depression. It's a negative sign. It's a very large negative sign. Okay, people who are married. Marriage decreases feelings of depression. And lastly, we have alcoholism. That will increase feelings of depression. Okay. So some of these are pretty straightforward. We have gender again, so we know that this one's nominal. Church attendance, now it depends. If you ask people, do you attend church, yes or no, that's going to be nominal. If you ask them to report how often they attend, that's probably going to be ordinal or interval ratio. Based on how we wrote this, we just wrote people who attend church. So we're going to go ahead and just call this one nominal based on the information in our little exercise here. Okay. People who are married or not, okay, so this one is nominal. And if we had a bunch of options, married, separated, divorced, widowed, that would also be nominal. Okay, lastly, this one's difficult, alcoholism. Are you an alcoholic? Yes or no is not really how we tend to see that kind of question, that kind of concept operationalized. If it were the case that it were yes or no like that, then it would be nominal. But it's possible you've asked people a bunch of questions and there's some sort of index or scale, in which case it would be ordinal. Okay, so depression. Feelings of depression. Often we tend to see this as an ordinal scale or index. And people can indicate the degree to which they feel depressed. It's not naturally numeric, so it's not interval ratio. It would most likely be ordinal. Now, if it were just people are depressed or not, and we categorize them into yes or no, it would be nominal. Okay, so let's leave it like that for now. Okay, let's do the last one. Researchers are studying the factors that affect obesity. They predict that individuals with higher incomes are less likely to be obese. Similarly, education has a negative effect on obesity. Exercising is negatively associated with obesity, and eating fast food is positively associated with obesity. All right. All right, so we're trying to predict obesity, okay? So we'll go ahead and put that over here. That's our dependent variable. And income matters, independent variable. Education matters, that's an independent variable. Exercising matters, independent variable. And eating fast food, those are our independent variables. So let's go ahead and put these in our diagram. So we have income, we have education. Sorry, this is a little bit messy. We have exercising. Okay. And we'll call this fast food consumption. All right. Now let's add positive or negative signs to our diagram. So people with higher incomes are less likely to be obese, and often when we measure income, it's what is your income, and then we give people ranges to choose from, less than $20,000, and then $20,001 through $30,000, things like that. It's possible people were asked their exact income and people reported it, but that's pretty rare. Usually it's ordinal. And so when you have a variable like that, we would say something like, as income increases, you're less likely to be obese. So we have a negative sign there. Education, this can be measured using an ordinal level of measurement or interval ratio. If you ask people to indicate the highest degree they have earned, that's going to be ordinal. If you ask people how many years of education they have, that's going to be interval ratio. So let's go ahead and put ordinal here. That's pretty typical. And education has a negative effect on obesity. So as education goes up, obesity, right, is less likely. Okay. Exercising is negatively associated with obesity. So as you exercise more, less of a chance you're going to be obese. Okay, so exercising can be measured in lots of different ways. How many times a week do you exercise? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Maybe you exercise twice a day. You can go up to like 14. You can have lots of choices there. Or it could be ranges. How often do you exercise per week? And you say none at all, or 1 to 3 times, 4 to 5 times. There can be different ranges. So this one really can depend. So I'm going to put ordinal or interval ratio here, just because I think you can see that both ways. Fast food consumption is positively associated with obesity. again, this is tricky. Do you eat fast food? Yes or no? Okay, that's nominal. But if you ask people, how often do you eat fast food? How many times per week? How many days per week? How many meals per week? You could really end up with any level of measurement. So this one, if you said just do you, yes or no, that's going to be nominal. If yes or no. Okay. If you give ranges, then we're going to have ordinal. And then if you ask people an exact number, then you will have interval ratio. So you can have any of these. So you can really see how, oops, why did that do that? Oh, sorry about that. Okay. You can really see how any of those are options. Okay. Obesity. So often we use things like BMI, and people can report either their BMI number or are they underweight, normal, overweight, or obese. And if you ask people their BMI, that's going to be interval ratio. But if you simply ask people to report which category they're in, that would be ordinal. And that's probably what you would see. Okay? Okay, so that kind of concludes this exercise. And there's a lot going on here. We have independent and dependent variables. We have causal diagrams. We have levels of measurement. So this is just a little bit of extra practice.